There we go. And then I can share this with others who aren't able to make it this evening. Welcome, everyone, to Mindset Reset, where I empower people with depression to understand that they have control over their thoughts and their emotions. This is not the end of something, but the beginning of a new way to look at your life, your world, your understanding of who you are. Jim Carrey is quoted, oh, there's somebody in the waiting room. Hang on a second. Who's in the waiting room? Oh, there we are. You should be in. Welcome. Right. Jim Carrey is quoted as saying that depression is your avatar telling you something is wrong. But here I use pop culture, including movies and music and games and more, to unlock our emotions, to recognize that we are good people, and to offer an alternative to medication. The next 30 minutes or so, we will have mental health tips, probably some fun and games, some color, some vibrancy, and most likely some bit of weirdness. I mean, we're all a little weird to somebody, aren't we, really? So I am Zac Thraves, and welcome to Mindset Reset. Now, coming up in the show, we have a movie of the week for you to seek out and watch, and I will try to fathom out why some of us have voices in our minds, or most of us probably, that become our very own sitcom audience. But first of all, let's do question of the week in this regular feature. This week I've made it a little bit easier. I will ask you a question. If you know the answer to this question, stick it in the comments below. And then at the end of the show, I will reveal the answer and maybe a winner. And somebody could win an imaginary prize of their choosing. Here is the question. Jim Carrey, who I have just mentioned, won a Golden Globe for which 1999 movie? And I'll give you a clue. It's not Dumb and Dumber, but I'll give you another clue. It's one of these three movies. Is it A, Man on the Moon, B, The Cable Guy, or C, Liar Liar? You've got 15 minutes to have a think about it. Type a message in the comments below, and I will reveal our lucky winner at the end. When I went away, I was just a learner. Now I am the master. Who said that? Yes, it's our old chum, Darth Vader, from the original Star Wars film. Not A New Hope, not Episode 4. It's called Star Wars. And if anyone ever dares challenge me about that one, then we will face off on the dunes of Tatooine with our very own lightsabers. Now, I say that, I mean the first bit, not the rest of it. The rest of it was a bit nonsense, because having a mental health condition is a bit like learning who you are. Many years ago, I was a simple farm boy on a planet with two suns, and I thought everyone was exactly the same as me. I mean, I would stare out of my bedroom window, watching the droids fly through the air and say, "Ah, what bitter night cometh in off the wind. I should retire to my slumber." Then I would remember that I hadn't done my homework, so I would turn on the computer and play some games. And I guess I thought everybody felt that way. When I lurched into teenage stuff, I felt the gravity, like proper gravity. My feet started scuffing the pavement. My shoulders slumped, my head bowed, and I was like Atlas trying to carry the world. In reality, I was carrying a rucksack with some books and my lunch in it, but boy, it was heavy. Things would make me cry. And then I'd feel weird that I was crying. Now, I remember watching a movie on the TV when I got home from school, and it was a love story. I can't remember what the film was called or who was in it. I only remember that it was black and white, and this couple were in love, and it was beautiful. And then she died, and it was the most tragic thing in the world. And I cried. I was about 13 and I cried, and my mum came running in thinking that I'd hurt myself or something had happened. And all I could say to her was how beautiful and sad this story was. Now, I'm not sure there are many 13-year-old boys from a comprehensive school who would behave like that. So I carried that weight for a long time. And then I started to talk and sort of got out in the open the thoughts that traveled around my brain. And then, then I thought it was time for the funny farm. And that's another movie. I'm getting so many movie references in this bit, I can't tell you. But I want to say that it's talking that helped. It's as simple as that. Now, the trick is finding someone you trust enough to open all that stuff up to. It really is a trick. And if you have someone, then that is special, because not everyone has someone who they feel that with. You can fall in love, you can be in a relationship, you can create a family, and you can have best friends, but it's rare that you're able to find that one person who can reach inside your soul and without effort and get the little trinkets of truth out of it. Now, I don't know if that resonates, that's not even a word. I don't know if that resonates with any of you, but if it does, stick a 1 in the comments, or if you feel the same way, or if you found that special person. I'd love to know. We have all the time in the world. We have all. That's what Louis Armstrong told us. And boy, was he wrong. I mean, where did 2020 go? It just disappeared. But when you sit back and listen to some music, some tunes, time can stop. Have you ever felt when you're listening to something as if you were lost in a song forever? And when you came out of that, you were 10 years older, wiser, better? I don't know, really. Maybe that's just me. But music has an extraordinary power. It guides us through life and lifts us. It enables our emotions to come to the fore and gives us space to explore things that have hurt us. When I'm in a low vibration, I use music to massage the monster that has reappeared, appease it with some tunes of heartbreak or pain, but then choose some soothing sounds to lull it back into its slumber. Music has power. Any kind of music. All music, your music, my music. Everything is music if you think about it. Our voices are music. Our footsteps on the pavement are music. Sirens going along the street are music, although sometimes it's a bit screechy. But when you're feeling a bit rubbish about stuff and feeling a bit crap about yourself, try this. Just gift yourself some time to listen to some music, something you know and love, something that connects to you and to the world and gives yourself time to stop and listen. Because if you do that, and if you are able to put your earplugs in, or maybe you can whack it on high, who knows, we used to be able to do that, then what you're actually doing when you close your eyes and go on the journey is actually a little meditation. And it's only 3 or 4 minutes. And by the end of the track, you might feel a little bit more energized and a little bit more focused about things. You might well have just given yourself a bit of breathing space between that little monster, the little devil, and yourself again. It really works. I do it, and it does work. Give it a go. Any kind of music will do. It's your personal journey. Well, with that in mind, I'm now going to speak about voices in your head. Now, if someone tells you you have voices in your head, what do you think their reaction would be? Now, I don't know if any of you have seen the film Airplane, but I picture the scene in the film where Ted Stryker, who's the main pilot, and he's the one with a drinking problem like that. And he's in a bar, and on the dance floor, he sees the woman that he loves and adores. It's his true love. And he's leaning up at the bar, and he asks the guy next to him to pinch him in case he's dreaming. And then the guy just looks at him and gently edges away without saying a word. Now, that is how I think people react when you say to them, you've got voices in your head. I mean, I could try it now. I have voices in my head. Yeah, people are moving away. See, the funny thing about doing a Zoom presentation or any online presentation is that you really could be speaking to yourself anyway. So I'll just have to say, I'm used to that, aren't I? Yes, that's right. Good. So how is it living with voices in your head? Well, I'd like to interrupt you there because technically they're not voices. I think you'll find that in 1967, they reported in Psychoanalysis for Dummies that the voices are a mixture of conjecturized memories and disproportionate imaginative wants and needs. Whoa, where did that come from? Well, that came from me. I made that up. You see what happens? That's one of the voices in my head. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Time for some real facts and not stuff that the scientist person in my head, who resembles Doc Brown from Back to the Future, that's not what he makes up. This is something I got from the NHS website. Hallucinations are where someone sees, hears, smells, tastes, or feels things that don't exist outside their mind. They're common in people with schizophrenia and are usually experienced as hearing voices. Hallucinations can be frightening, but there's usually an identifiable cause. Well, when I found that scared the pants out of me, because then I'm thinking, whoa, is that what I'm like? Is that really me? Now, so I looked further. Other sites from the likes of Mind and Rethink, they offer ideas like this. While hearing voices can be a symptom of some mental health problems, not everyone who hears voices has a mental illness. That's good. Dissociative identity disorder is characterized by a person's identity being split into two or more separate identities. Auditory hallucinations or hearing voices is a common symptom in people living with schizophrenia. You see, Google scares the hell out of you. When you Google stuff, this is what you get. So rather than go down that road, because I fear they might be coming for me already, I guess then instead I'm going to figure out not how it happens, but why it happens. So I asked the many voices inside my mind while researching this piece that I'm presenting to you today, what is their point? And I received a gallery of answers, such as, we only want to protect you. You're not as good as you think you are. Just look at the comments. Good. If only you knew the power of the dark side. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to his father. It's a trap! Well, maybe not those two. But our minds are filled with a funfair of noise and drama and color and talk, and it all gets jumbled into a ball like plasticine and then spread over your brain, just like those pots of sticky goo that we used to get that you would then put your fingers in and then be told not to lick it off because it's all toxic. These voices are a dolly mixture of everything and everyone that has ever entered my line of vision at one point in my life. They're all there, gathered together like a sort of enormous and horrific version of Celebrity Squares, and all talking and singing and vying for attention, and it all happens in a second. The brain is filtering this information like Hal from 2001, or Joshua, the great big NORAD computer from War Games. Our brains are supercomputers that can be dialed into and then explode because it has created its own version of Armageddon. And none of this makes sense. So let's go back to the voices. You know, some of them are good. The trick is to filter out the crappy ones and get to the good stuff. When I was a little boy, here we go again. I wasn't on a planet with two suns. Actually, it sounds like a song. When I was a little, I had an audience watching my every move, an audience. They were my voices. And they would offer nice little critiques, perhaps a bit of advice on where to take a character. I would perform ideas and sketches and do silly voices and then sit down and we'd go through the notes that had been made by these many voices. I would remember what made those noises laugh or what made these invisible things groan, and then just keep playing and moving along. I never had imaginary friends. Well, no chance. Instead, I had an imaginary audience, like a sitcom audience. And I would say to myself in my room, this is filmed in front of a live studio audience. And I'd say asides like, off the camera, like little catchphrases or something. And then everybody would laugh silently to everybody else. But to me, it was this cacophony of noise. And I used it to help give me confidence in what I was doing. And this began when I was at school. And when did it end? When does anything end? I mean, what is an end? Is it real? No. And it's like in the film The Truman Show, if you've seen that, when he speaks to himself in the mirror. But maybe you've seen the movie. Well, he speaks as if he is the audience, and it sort of tricks the audience of the movie into thinking he knows he has an audience in the movie, which he does because the audience is him, but he also doesn't know that he has millions of people watching him as well. Well, what I'm trying to say is that we are our audience. There is no person we need to impress the most than ourselves, because we are the noisy, molded plasticine model of all the voices and bits of advice that we've been given. And we need to appease that monster, that little gremlin or whatever it is that crops up. That is us. Having this noise in your head may seem scary, but I'm trying to flip it. I'm trying to flip it over on its head, really, because I'm a strong believer in enabling us to cope with our emotions and minds without the need for medication. I don't think it's wrong to hear things. In fact, I don't think it's wrong to have an audience. It is how you frame it in your mind that can change your view. An audience in general, in reality, will like or dislike anything that you do. That is natural. Therefore, your imaginary audience will behave exactly the same. You would be a very dull person if you didn't make a mistake. You would also be very similar if you never took risks. And if everyone liked absolutely everything that you did, that would probably make you quite boring as well. Hearing this constant chatter is something that I've grown used to. Silence is not real. I mean, do we ever really have silence? Our individual worlds are full of noise, and much of that is what we have created. It is your world, your creation, your view. It's your interpretation. And yes, some of those voices can be negative, but you do have a choice which ones to react to. Ignore the naysayers that lie in the back. They usually sit in the back, and just keep going. Hecklers are cowards, not brave enough to stand up in real life. The hecklers of your mind are your fears. You can listen, you can learn, but you don't have to take action unless you want to. So rather than say to you, lose the voices, why not embrace them? I've actually learnt to like the chatter. Sometimes funny stuff happens and we all laugh, don't we? No? Yes, we do. Well, sometimes we do anyway. So I wonder then, do you dance on your own but think that you are not on your own? Do you talk to yourself at home when no one is around but expect an answer? Do you do something silly like drop something or fall over, and then you laugh, and then you get embarrassed, even though there is nobody else there to see it? If you say yes to any of those things, well, welcome to my show. And I mean all of you. So here's something you can do at home, a little exercise for you. This helps you to come to terms with whatever goes on in there, you know, like peeking into a box in the attic that you were told never to go near. Why do they do that in movies? It's so cliched. Never, ever feed them after midnight. Yeah, okay, right. Peer inside your mind and see if you can recognize any of those voices. They're not all bad. Some could be scary, but if you filter away from the bad ones, you can find the good ones. It could even be your voice when you were younger. It could be a lovely grandparent or an aunt or an uncle. Now I could be alone in this, and that's fine, because really, I'm not alone, if you get what I mean. So let's move to Movie of the Week. Now, this might come as a surprise to you. What's the movie of the week that I'm asking you to watch for this week? And I hope you enjoyed Cool Runnings. Well, it's The Truman Show. What's it about? Well, I'd say it's about an hour and 47 minutes. Here are some fun facts. It cost $60 million to make, and it took $264 million at the box office. Jim Carrey was not nominated for an Oscar, although practically every other person involved in the making of the movie was. It was directed by Peter Weir, who also did Witness, but was meant to be directed by Brian De Palma, who did Scarface and The Untouchables. And it was produced by Scott Rudin, who is now persona non grata for bullying claims in Hollywood. It has been analyzed and psychoanalyzed to the point where you just want to punch someone, but then that too would be analyzed and the movie would be over by the time all behaviors and reactions have been analyzed. But I'd like to include this little bit of analysis that I caught online. Analysis of The Truman Show. A prototypical adolescent at the beginning of the movie, he feels trapped into a familial and social world to which he tries to conform while being unable to entirely identify with it, believing that he has no other choice other than through the fantasy of fleeing to a faraway island. Eventually, Truman gains sufficient awareness of his condition to leave home, developing a more mature and authentic identity as an adult, leaving his child self behind and becoming a true man. Hey, that's got your juices flowing, right? So this week, watch The Truman Show. It's about society. It's about fitting in, conforming, true love, freedom, wanting to escape, all the reasons society tells you that you can't escape, and then escaping, and then hitting a brick wall, and then hearing the voice of God. It's a 90s movie, so it doesn't feature in my workshop, unless I decide to do workshops using 90s movies, which I won't, but I could, but I won't. Now then, let's reveal question of the week's answer, which I suppose I could call answer of the week. Have we got any answers to the, let me have a look. So what are we going with? We've got the cable guy from Amanda. We've got Liar Liar from James and Sherry. Well, it's a choice of 3. And the 2 answers we've got are both, I'm afraid they're wrong. The answer is Man on the Moon, which was 1999, where he plays Andy Kaufman. So I'm afraid there's no imaginary prizes going out this week. We'll have to wait for next week to get our first prize out. Here we go. We're nearly there, everyone. Now, this is all about empowering people with depression or anxiety to achieve balance and confidence and understanding with who they are and what they can do to make their life a success, to get change and to allow light into their life. And we get to this by using pop culture. Through the movies that I use, we can find ways to stop you sabotaging your life, stop getting caught by depression, start boosting your self-esteem, start building your self-worth, and stop the things you feel are holding you back. I offer programs. I offer a 12-week program, and we use 80s movies to discover our strengths and emotions and to try and get who we are and to like who we are as well. If that ticks any boxes and you want to learn more, then you know where to find me. You can message me, email me, let's have a chat. So what have we learned this week? Well, that we are weird. That having voices in your head is not all that bad, but could be. But you should be aware and not afraid. And also that they are you. That you actually really do have control over them, even when you think you don't. I've learned that a kazoo does not replace a singing voice. And that there's something in these old movies that we watch that reach out to us and give us lessons about life. It's all in the old stuff, which is probably something I can say because I'm old. Tune in next week, where we will be discussing such gems as uniform and colour. And there's also another chance to be champion of Question of the Week. Maybe I ought to offer a real prize. Depression has a habit of sneaking up. And when it does, I stop pushing, I breathe, I listen, and I offer myself some kindness. And for me, that is sitting down and watching an old movie that I recognize with characters that I love and reconnects me to the world. Thank you for your time here today. We've got a message in here. Oh no, it's a ha-ha. That wasn't a Jim Carrey movie, I'm afraid. So thank you for your time and presence here today. And I hope that by being here, you have gone some way towards opening your mind to a different way to approach your emotions and life in general. If you're stuck, but you know there is light ahead, then join the MI experience. I've invited you out to my Facebook group. Hopefully you'll join us there, and I'll put the link in for next week's show. And I do hope that I see you next Monday, 6:30, same time, same channel. This was Mindset Reset. Thank you very much for joining me. Good night.